Maxine Kwok-Adams of the London Symphony Orchestra.
Thank you very much.
You're known for your shabby appearance and lack of attention to detail.
Yeah.
We're thrilled you're here today to share with us some of the do's and the don'ts of what you should be wearing on stage, because it actually can have a quite devastating consequence, can't it? If you're wearing the wrong shoes, for instance. What happened the other day, Maxine? Did you fall over?
Oh yes. Actually, I don't think it had anything to do with the shoes I was wearing, because these are boots I run around town in quite a lot. I mean, they're high, but they're not. It's nothing ridiculous. But unfortunately, I think if you carry your violin, you should probably take a bit more aware of your surroundings, not chat to two people at a time while negotiating some stairs. So of course then I missed the step and went right down onto my violin on the stairs, and God, it made such a loud bang. All the people around were like, oh my God, oh my God. So thankfully, actually my violin repairer just called and said I can pick it up from tomorrow. I just smashed the bridge, so I'm very, very lucky, because I'm not a slender girl, so that would have been quite a hefty fall onto a violin.
I have seen people come croppers though wearing heels that are too high. So although of course you're sitting when you're playing, you do have to be aware of getting up and off the stage, don't you?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's it's all very well saying it's so fine because you're sitting down, but you always have to give heels a test run before you think about wearing them in any kind of situation that involves stress. Because actually, even if you wear shoes that pinch and you're sitting, it's like the concert's never ending. You might as well have razor blades tied all over your feet. It distracts from the concert. It doesn't matter how good you look. If it's distracting, then that's absolutely no good to you at all.
Yeah. You're famous for wearing some amazing corsets during concerts. I've tried a few, you haven't I? We've had a fun time to tie ourselves into them before.
Oh yeah, the famous time you stick your leg into my back to tie it. I don't wear them so much now, just because it is quite restricting, I think, when you're playing. It's not so possible to take deep breaths. And if you're on the inside and you're turning the page and you're like, oh, it does cut you in half somewhat, but it does look good. It's if you've got an hourglass shape, it's fantastic because it pulls you in all the right places. I do have a really fun corset with with the holes for the violin shape in white, which is fun. I sometimes wear that for a laugh, but it's only like a half corset, so it doesn't really sort of restrict too much around the lung area. So, but yeah, they're great to wear, and it's you always feel glamorous and something like that.
Absolutely. So I was just saying before we started officially that Elspeth Hansen of Bond Quartet, which is one of the most glam quartets out.
Absolutely.
This is a serious question for you. She asks, which clothing brands do you find the most suitable for your concerts?
Wow. It's quite tricky, actually. I have lots of concert wear. It's something I've obviously built up over many years. I'd say all my favourite things I've probably bought in America. Because I suppose they have their proms, like school proms, they actually have a lot more evening wear. So I probably think, I'd say things like BCBG are really fantastic for concerts, but it all really depends on your style, what works for you, whether you're someone who prefers separates or a dress or trouser suit and things like that. And to be honest, most of the time I have to have my concert wear altered in some way, because chances are there's like that much too much material on the bottom, or I just need something structured slightly more around the arms and stuff, because you don't want any gaping this and that, or little modesty panels sewn in and things. So I do tend to buy quite a lot of concert wear abroad, and also that has a great advantage of people probably having the same things, because as you know, there are there's lots to buy long black clothing in England, but you do get people going to the same places, and it's sort of not the greatest thing in the world if you've turned up at a concert and somebody's wearing the same thing. So, you know,
you're famous for being able to accessorize outfits, aren't you? I mean, I've seen all sorts of amazing things that you've basically cobbled together from all
yeah.
sorts of funny places. So,
Well,
I mean,
the thing is with concert wear, I mean, there are things I have got, you know, people have, I think that one time there was quite a few of us who had exactly the same plain satin skirt, basically nice, really nice shape and stuff. But because everyone accessorized it really differently, it didn't look like, you know, people in the audience were going, oh my God, that person's wearing, they're all wearing the same skirt. It is about being a little bit creative. If you're interested in looking slightly different or not having the same thing as everybody else, you can easily customize plain tops with trim. Here, I have a little example for you. If you go into fabric shops, you can find all sorts of very cheap trim. For example, there's some, I haven't actually done anything with it yet, but there's some feather trim there. So you can buy yourself a fairly cheap black top and end up sort of trimming it with that. So you'll have a top that nobody else has. And I'm always picking up sort of fabric and stuff, and I got this lovely black net. Haven't quite decided. I think I might, I've got a lot of fabric actually here, so I might make myself a sort of, like, you know, long coat in this fabric, which will look nice over trousers.
Overcoat, chiffon.
Yeah, so, and it's really light because a lot of concert halls are just too hot, to be honest.
Well, that's good, and that addresses that whole thing about covered arms or not covered arms. It's very controversial, isn't it? And of course, covered arms means you get hot, but that, of course, solve that nicely.
There is that. Yeah, I mean, think about the poor men who are in their tails and, you know, shirt, bow tie, jacket and stuff. But at least we have the option of wearing lighter fabrics. I mean, I do. A lot of people like to be sleeveless and things. In our orchestra, it's the rule is that we have to have some sleeve, which I think does actually look smarter. Individually, people look great if they're in, you know, strapless numbers and things. But as a whole, certainly when I've sat in an audience of concerts and you see sort of great expanses of white dotted amongst men in their full, it's a little bit jarring. So I think you can be quite creative. And also, you know, unfortunately I'm not, but if you have a friend who's handy with a sewing machine, or you yourself, you can get, you know, you don't need a lot of fabric to make a simple shrug in a nice black sort of chiffon or something. And then you can, there was this amazing picture of Jennifer Lopez in a white dress with a white chiffon sort of, it was all sort of wavy and gorgeous. And I basically just had it copied in black, in sort of this chiffony black. And a friend of mine just basically blinged the whole way round. This is probably my favorite concert top, actually. It took her something like 52 hours. You
have a friend who blings for you on demand.
Yeah. She's a bit sick of it now, unfortunately, probably because I've brought her so many things. But it just gives, you know, you can just make something slightly different, a bit more out of the ordinary, catches the light. And, you know, I really don't think, some of my favorite things in my concert wardrobe, and it's extensive, are the cheapest pieces I have, that I've just basically, that I happen to love, and or you've just made, you know, sort of customized to yourself. So you can be very individual, but while staying within the confines of that you have to be smartly dressed and in some form of long black. So it's no longer a case of thinking of a nun and dressing down, as someone once said when I joined the orchestra. So, you know, it's fun. I love the dressing up part, as you can imagine.
So Elspeth's also asking, have you had any wardrobe malfunctions?
Oh, nothing too bad. I was thinking, I really remember one time, and you'll remember doing things like this. There was like a real like fake hair phenomenon. You know, you used to sort of like clip in a concert this and that. And I remember thinking the whole concert that it was about to fall out. I had a really long sort of plait thing.
You put the symphony and a bit of tremolo going.
Yeah, and you're sort of like thinking, oh, I'll be so embarrassed if this whole thing falls out of my head. So that it never happened, but I remember being quite frightened. I did once have a dress which I thought was a bit low cut, so I put a huge sparkly brooch across to sort of tie it together and make a feature. And I remember that came off in the concert, and luckily landed, because it was a big brooch. That would have made a lot of noise if it hit the floor, and that landed in my lap. Thankfully, I was like, oh, phew. But
wearing a brooch at the front as I put my instrument up and down.
Yeah,
catching it. And
yeah,
you've got a beautiful brooch, and I've got something really sparkly. It's lovely, and then
yeah, it's not the best idea, which is why I started doing the just sewing in a little panel. If you think a dress is too low cut, then get some literally an off cut of lace or chiffon, and you can sew that in yourself. It's dead easy, and then so you don't feel like you're about to expose yourself in a concert, and you don't scratch. Yeah, because that's another worry. You have to constantly think, I'm not about to scratch the whole length of my violin on this brooch. But I think I have had a shoe heel break on me literally as I was about to walk on stage in Madrid. That was not a good feeling, and I literally ran back to the dressing room, and because I'd rehearsed in a pair of long brown boots, I thought, well, I can't go on stage in those. So actually what I should have done was just gone on my tights and not worried about it. But I did grab a pair of black shoes that I saw in the dressing room, and I just ran on stage in them. So, you know, and I had to thank a friend big time because I didn't even know whose shoes they were. So that was not the best feeling in the world.
I have to say that it's playing a concerto. You've got to practice it in your dress at home, don't you?
It has to be on the jewelry you plan to wear, the shoes, everything, because there's nothing worse than finding I did when I was a kid a concerto with, I wanted to wear this huge necklace my parents had bought me, I think either for my birthday just before Christmas or something, and I remember thinking at one point I was about to take the violin away from it, and I could feel it was caught in the shoulder rest, and I was thinking, oh no, I shouldn't have worn this. I managed to untangle myself, but it's just, there's one thing wanting to be glam and having all these nice things, but you need to know that they actually work well. The shoes are not gonna kill you after you've stood for 35 or 40 minutes, because we have done projects with Sir John Eliot Gardiner where he likes us to stand through usually the symphony, usually they're probably Beethoven or Mendelssohn or something, so it's not Mahler 9, but it does make a difference what you're standing in. So I've learned that the hard way, because I've certainly stood and thought the concert wasn't ever going to end. Now I have a particular pair that I'm very comfortable in standing in, that I don't particularly love as shoes, but it's like, it's fine. They'll be fine.
Slightly brings us to our first polling question. If you guys, there are 3 polling questions that we've got.
Okay.
Most of you had a go at answering that, and our very first question is, what do you think is more important, glamour or comfort? And 17% that say glamour every time, hardcore, and everybody else is comfort, because there's no point looking great if you can't play properly. So I have to admire the person who says glamour every time. I can't.
I wonder who that was. Yeah, I mean, it is a fine line, because of course it's nice to look good, and the looking good gives you confidence, I think, to play, but there's no point in it being in the forefront of your mind that something is tight or uncomfortable or may result in a wardrobe malfunction, because at the end of the day, the whole point is being there and doing a job and doing it to the best of your ability. And if you're constantly thinking like, ooh, I'm about to burst out of this or that, or the earrings are about to fly off. Actually, I have had a huge earring come off once, And yeah, we were playing a Beethoven symphony, and we were in Bonn, and my desk partner leaned over to me and said, Beethoven lost his earring in Bonn as well, which I thought was very clever. So I don't actually wear those earrings anymore. So, you know, sometimes you have to learn the hard way about certain things. So
well, we've got an attendee here whose name I don't know, but I can see their email address, and he or she says, "Hi Maxine, can you tell us how you look after your nails? I have to like cut mine really short to play, which this person's a string player or not, but we know about that. It's a travesty, isn't it? Got long toenails."
Yeah, it's yeah, it's a shame. I've always I actually have fairly long nails for
And so does Sarah Chang. She has very
yeah, Sarah actually has really long nails, and we have talked about this. I think, to be honest, I used to keep them super short, and I didn't really take good care of them until I got engaged, and people will say like, "Ooh, let's see your ring," and you're sort of going like this and trying not to show your awful nails. So I started taking a lot more care of them. I'd say what I personally think, it's I don't like nail clippers, because I just think you end up cutting all, you know, bits of cuticle and stuff. So I always file those.
We've got an anonymous attendee asking, "Hi Maxine, when you're auditioning for orchestras, what would you recommend in the fashion department? Smart and subtle, or something that makes you stand out?" Which is a fair question, actually, because being remembered is really hard. In 3 days of auditions and they're hearing 150 people, you want to be remembered, right? What's the best way, apart from obviously playing the band?
You know, it's not the time to be really eccentric and you know, a bit bizarre, and your playing will get you remembered. There's no problem with that. I just think it's always good to show you've made an effort, because of, you know, the situation is serious. This is, you know, you want to show that air of performing. So nothing too crazy. I was very subtle when I auditioned.
I remember speaking to a singer at music college, and they were all dressed up to the nines with a lot of makeup on, and turning up perfectly coiffed every day to college. And I said to them, "Really? How do you do it? Why do you do it?" And they said that as singers, they've been taught that they were their instrument. They said, you know, as a singer, you are your instrument. And so you want to present your instrument in the most glamorous light possible. And I suppose it's not quite the same, of course, for an instrumentalist, because you are not your instrument. However, there is that whole thing about it being, it's not just a CD recording. It's not just an audio recording. It is a whole experience of being there with somebody live. And even in an audition, personally, I like to wear one thing that isn't slightly memorable, maybe an interesting pair of shoes. I don't mean a crazy pair of shoes that are too high and I can't balance in, but something that just makes them say, "Oh yes, the girl with the red shoes," or the scarf, or something, just to sort of trigger their memory. So when they're sort of remembering everybody that played the Brahms, you know, all 35. Yeah. The one with the red shoes. Yeah,
because often when I'm on the panel and I need to write, I might write sort of like the red jumper or something like sparkly hair clip or something like that. I mean, you have to present yourself as you are. It's just that you don't feel you need to. It's just, the most important thing is just be smart. It's a serious occasion. You don't need to be in evening dress, which I have seen before. It has happened. But you know, you just don't want to be in ripped jeans and crop tops and stuff like that. And you know, if that sounds patronizing, it has happened. So just be smart and add an element of yourself, if you like.
I've got a question here on the poll. Is it okay to have your phone on silent in a rehearsal? And 60% of people say it's never okay to have it on, and 40% think fine as long as it's discreet and it's, you know, not disturbing anybody. So what are your thoughts on that? Have you ever had your phone on?
Oh, I have to admit, I used to often look at my phone in rehearsals. I was checking emails or Facebook or Twitter or something, and it became a habit. And actually, when I saw other people doing it, I felt really irritated. So now I just don't take my phone out of my bag, because then I'm not tempted to. Because to be honest, if something important came through, there's not a lot I can do. I can't reply to an email anyway. The most I do is usually I'll snap a picture of the rehearsal, the conductor or something, or a soloist, for the LSO to use for Twitter. But I think it's a difficult one, because people complain like, the brass or the percussion are sitting there on their iPads, and but on the other side of that, they've probably got 1,000 bars rest or something. So it's a difficult one, I think. And I think people don't realize that. I have spoken to conductors about it, and they do notice. You think you're kind of like being really discreet, but actually they see a lot more than you realize. And I suppose you don't want to be in that situation where at one point somebody goes, "Hey, you on your mobile phone, you're not listening." So to be honest, these days I just leave it in my bag, so that I'm not actually tempted to check what's going on.
Your face, so you can see who's actually got one on, can't you? Even if you can't see the device itself.
There's that element, and I think, especially with the introduction of, in the last few years, of not having mobile phones on in recording studios, because of course we used to sit there on our phones all the time. That was the norm, sitting in Abbey Road or something. But because of now, with the interference with the microphones and stuff, it's become quite normal to just, obviously they're not meant to be on. So I think we're all used to not really interacting so much with our phones. So in an ideal world, we wouldn't. In my personal view, I really try not to, because I know what I'm like myself. If I start getting my phone out, I'll just get completely distracted. So writing to musical orbit and things like that.
Good girl. Question here from Luxy Tune.
Oh!
You have many products by Luxy Tune, don't you? And it says, "Hi Maxine, greetings from New York City."
Oh,
very toasty in New York. It's great to see you on this webinar. What types of jewelry are most comfortable or wearable during your concerts? And do you ever wear anything more than once?
Oh. Gosh, I certainly do wear things countless times. I'm a big jewelry person. To be honest, I don't tend to wear necklaces in concerts now. That doesn't work so well for me. Also because I like to wear big earrings in concerts, and people always say like, "Oh, how can you play?" But because I will use the cloth over the chin rest, it doesn't make a noise, because there's nothing worse than you can hear someone's earrings clanging against the chin rest. So I'm a really big earrings and like ring person. But yeah, I'm not. I suppose there's always the added sort of stress of a necklace getting caught on the violin and stuff like that. So and yes, of course I do wear many things more than once, unless I find it something that was so tight or uncomfortable, and I just think, well, okay, that's going now. So, but Luxy Tune, best tuners in the world for sure.
On the site, in fact, which you wrote for us. Thank you very much for that.
Oh, I have an example of a Luxy Tune here. Actually, this is not a violin I regularly use at work. This is actually they call it a mute violin because there's no sound box, and it's for practice. So it looks quite funky, isn't it? Something Bond would use. So it's I have this hanging on the wall, and there's a little Luxy Tune skull tuner on there, which is really, really cute. I love that. So they made all my bling violin dreams come true.
Oh, lovely. As you can see, Maxine's article on the website and the news section. Razzle Dazzle, I think it's the name.
Yes, I think it's called Razzle Dazzle. Yeah, you're
great,
right.
Lovely. Check it out. It's great stuff. And Luxy Tune says that's a very cool violin.
Oh yeah.
Like
I've always wanted to one day just open that at work, at my case, and go, "Oh my God, what happened?" or something. But it's actually a great idea in that it's meant for practice. But I liked it so much. To be honest, I just have it hanging on the wall as sort of artwork. So
very cool. I think that's probably all we've got time for today, but thank you so much, Maxine.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's been lovely to chat and
Oh,
answer questions and things. So
great.
everyone looking at the website, and if anyone has any things they want me to write about, just tweet us and tag Musical Orbit and myself, and I'll get on it.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Maxine. Thanks, everybody.
No problem. Take care. Bye.